Good evening. This is another episode of Black Man Into the Wild. I'm blessed to be here with you all tonight, and I'm blessed to have you here with me as well. Tonight, I would like to do just a quick recap of some of the topics that we've covered here on the podcast this year. But before we get started, if you have not already, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel, like the video, and share with your friends if you like what you hear. I did a nice hike yesterday along the Metolious River near Central Oregon, and I had actually planned on recording this yesterday while I was out there next to the river, but I'm going to save that for another time. I got to the trailhead a little bit later than I had expected. I will say, though, the weather was beautiful for this time of year. Luckily, no rain, but the water was clear and moving fast, and if you're ever in the area, this is a trail that I definitely suggest checking out. Earlier this year, we took a closer look at one of Elon Musk's more quietly kept projects, Neuralink. By now, we've all witnessed Tesla's major disruption to the automotive industry and hopefully have been tuned in to the exponential rate of progress in research and development that SpaceX has displayed. However, in this podcast, we were focused on Neuralink, which is a next generation technology that sets out to help merge the gap between humans and artificial intelligence. If you haven't had a chance to watch or listen to that episode, I highly recommend it. One of my favorite podcasts from this last year was the one where we learned about the autonomous robot grocery warehouses. If you remember, that was when we talked about Ocado Group, a UK-based online grocery solutions and logistics business that licenses its technology to grocery retailers around the world. Now, the robotic systems and technology that we saw in those warehouses is, in my opinion, very similar to some of the robotics that Amazon deploys in their distribution warehouses here. So I do believe that there is an opportunity for the autonomous grocery store concept to flourish here in the United States. Just a couple of weeks ago, we tried taking a closer look at Facebook's Horizon workrooms, trying to understand additional context as to why Facebook has rebranded to Meta Platforms Incorporated. That podcast was supposed to be a brief introduction to the metaverse, so hopefully I did a good job of explaining it. But the conversation around the metaverse is so new that I know we'll have plenty of opportunities to revisit the topic to see what else we can learn. Another one of my favorite episodes from this year is the one where we talked about Astra. You may remember Astra is an American launch vehicle company based in Alameda, California. I believe they were founded in the fall of 2016, and I know they were formerly known in the media as Stealth Space Company. But in that episode, we were looking at some of the goals that Astra had set out to accomplish. And quite honestly, I think it's right now the perfect time to do a follow-up to that podcast because on November 20th, actually just a couple of days ago, Astra managed to launch its first successful mission to orbit. Rocket 3.3, carrying a demonstration payload from the U.S. Department of Defense, was launched from PSCA after several unsuccessful launches during 2021. The company's stock surged by as much as 42% after this feat. Now, I think that could be, quite fun to talk about, and it would give us an opportunity to talk about that SpaceX Inspiration 4 mission, which also successfully launched and completed just a couple of months ago. I did a podcast looking at the Kanye West Donda stem player. By now, many of us, hopefully all of us, have heard Ye's critically acclaimed Donda album. However, this interesting piece of tech that allows you to edit and manipulate songs to make them your own has not received nearly as much attention. We were also introduced to a company called Kano Computing, a global computer hardware and software company based in London in that episode. So again, another one I highly recommend. Go ahead and check it out. I'll put a link in the video above. We did two podcasts focused on some of the Boston Dynamics robotics, one looking at the progress of Atlas, their bipedal humanoid robot, and the other looking at their robot Stretch, which is being designed for warehouse optimization. And finally, the conversation we had on the semiconductor supply chain is one that will be relevant definitely in the near term, but also likely for the rest of our lives as we become continuously more reliant on technology. In that podcast, we also talked about Bitcoin mining and energy usage, another conversation that will be relevant definitely in the near term, but also likely for the rest of our lives. Now, in a different episode, we talked about decentralized finance and NFTs. So right now, I'm actually working on a follow-up to that, considering, the crypto.com news, right? $700 million they purchased Staples Arena, so we'll definitely talk about that. I also have a Bitcoin mining company that I want to talk about in another podcast, a Bitcoin mining company that leverages sustainable energy to support their blockchain technologies. Stay tuned. Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been another episode of Black Man Into the Wild. Have a great night.